Question number 34. Does God regularly punish his children with sickness? We know that God is a father. We know that fathers sometimes have to punish. So is sickness a go-to tool that God uses? He sees us doing something he doesn't like. Give him cancer. Give him a back problem. Give him a virus. Give him the flu. Give him a broken arm. Is that what God does? Does he regularly punish his children with sickness? My answer to that is no. Our daily struggle with the effects of sin are rarely direct punishments from God. Hardships like sickness, besetting sins, spiritual warfare, and religious persecution. I picked those four because those are the four most prominent effects of living in a fallen world that we see in the New Testament. Sickness, besetting sins, spiritual warfare, religious persecution. These are instead to be viewed as forms of discipline that God uses. He takes things that are contrary to his will and he brings good out of them. When met with faith, these hardships can produce patience in us. They can conform us to the image of Jesus. They make us more dependent on the Spirit, and ultimately they lead us back to the Father. Sickness is not to be embraced, but it can be redeemed because God can win with any hand. Let's look at a few scriptures. First, Romans 5, then we're going to look at 2 Corinthians 4, and then Hebrews 12. But first, let's start in Romans 5, and I'm going to read verses 3 through 5. Paul says, not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. All of those good things, endurance, character, hope, are flowing forth out of suffering for those who are faithful in their suffering. Then he says this, because God's love has been poured out in our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. So those who are filled with the Holy Spirit, as he says in Romans 8, for those who love God and for those who bring their faith with them into their time of crisis, no matter who the cause was of that crisis. But when we enter into that crisis with faith, filled with the Holy Spirit, loving Jesus, then what kind of things are produced out of that suffering? Endurance, character, hope. Good things can come out of evil. 2 Corinthians 4, 16 through 18. Paul says, do not lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. Outer flesh dying, inner flesh renewed, receiving new life and vigor day by day. For this light, momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, as we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal. As we live faithfully in this fallen world, God sees our faithfulness despite our affliction. God sees our fidelity to him, even though we are suffering the effects of the enemy. God sees that, and he lays up for us treasures in heaven, eternal weights of glory that we will one day receive. You see, the Father, not only is he with us in our suffering, but he's counting. He's keeping track, and he's preparing for us in heaven. And then Hebrews chapter number 12. Paul, the writer of Hebrews, says, and have you forgotten the exhortation that addresses you as sons? Quotation, my son, do not regard lightly the discipline of the Lord, nor be weary when reproved by him. For the Lord disciplines the one he loves and chastises every son whom he receives. It is for discipline that you have to endure. God is treating you as sons. We have had earthly fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them. Shall we not much more be subject to the Father of spirits and live? For they, our earthly fathers, disciplined us for a short time, as it seemed best to them. But he, God, disciplines us for our good, that we may share his holiness. For the moment, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant. But later, it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. Therefore, lift your drooping hands and strengthen your weak knees and make straight paths for your feet, so that what is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather be healed. Now, what is Hebrews 12 teaching us there? It's teaching us that the brokenness in this world, and you can read the previous verses in Hebrews 12 and then back in Hebrews 11, the effects of a fallen world God is using. God never promises that once we enter into relationship with him through Jesus, that he removes all the effects of the fallen world. That doesn't happen. You don't have to be a theologian to know that. That doesn't happen, right? So, why? Why does God then leave us in this world of pain and hardship? Because he is glorified through it, because he brings good out of it, because he lays up eternal rewards for us in it. And God uses the brokenness of this world to discipline us and to train us and to help us. But he also gives us the ability to be healed and to be restored and to have relationships brought back together once again.